Okay, now we start to load the ink to the ink tank and the ink damper. Before we load the ink, we can start to power on the machine. After the machine powered on, then we go to the right backside of the ink tank. If you are the first time to load the ink, so the ink light will be on because the ink is empty, no ink. So we need to load the ink to the ink tank. We take, let's say for example, first we open the cover and put the ink. I must be sure, you must pay attention to the ink, the color flow for each tank. From the left to right is light magenta, light cyan, yellow, magenta, cyan, black, and vanish and white. Then we start to load in. We find out the ink that from Focus Digital, and we put for prevent the ink spread out to damage the printer or make the print dirty. We use the tissue to take it like this and shake it to make the ink not settling. And then we open the cover. And we put the ink to the tank, and when the light is off, then we can stop to load the ink. The light is the ink level detect the light. Don't put too much ink to the tank. Load about 2/3 for the total volume. Then we put back the cover. Must pay attention to that. The cover cannot fasten too much. We fasten it, then we go back about one rotate to make the air can be go through inside. If you fasten it, the ink cannot go through. It cannot go through to the damper. So we must loosen a little bit. All the ink tank the same, like this, to make the air can go through inside, to make the pressure, to make the ink have pressure to flush into the ink damper. So load all the ink by the same way. Okay, after we put the ink to the ink tank, then we start to load the ink from the ink damper. You need to load the ink from the ink damper by the injection if you are the first time to load the ink. So before we load ink from the damper, we need to power off the machine. We need to power off. And then we find out the ink damper. It will have an ink label mark on the tube inside. You can find the ink mark for each color inside. And also, you can remember that the ink flow for this printhead all are for totally 6 ink damper. These all are for white ink, and these 6 all are for vanish. And this is 6 print ink damper. From left to right is the left one is black. So this one, the first one is black, cyan, magenta, light cyan, yellow, and light magenta. This is the ink flow color flow. So don't load in wrong ink or the printing picture, the color will not origin. So then we can start to load the ink from the ink damper. We take the last one, let magenta for example. We take out ink damper. Must pay attention to that. You must hold the ink damper by this way, the back and front side. We take out, and why we cannot hold like this, because here is the breathing bubble. Here have an ink inside. If we push down, the ink will be flushing out to make the print head or print dirty or damage the printer or print head. So you must hold the ink damper by this way. And then we check if the ring, the screw are fastened well, and this switch is connected well already, like this way. After that, we connect the injection to the damper and load the ink out. We load about 2/3, about 3 to 5 milliliter ink. And right now, must pay attention to that. We cannot release our injection immediately. Must waiting for the injection, no pressure, automatic stop. If the ink damper, if the injection still have pressure but we release our hand, the air will be flushing back to the damper. So the damper will have air inside. So it will cause affect print quality. So make it automatic stop. Then we release our finger and take out. And right now, then we can put the ink damper a little bit down and check if the ink can be dropped out. If the ink dropping out, that means the ink damper broken or leaking air, or the fasten position are leaking air, or the ink tank lack of ink. So we need to put more ink on the tank and check the connection and then load again. It's no dropping ink, then we can put back the ink damper to the print head. We also hold by this way and install back. Also for safety, we need to put the paper at both sides of the print head cable position to prevent if the ink dropping to the cable and flushing to the connection port to cause the print head damage. So also we load ink by the same way to load each color for the color print head. Then we load ink for white ink and varnish. Here we must pay attention to the varnish and white ink, because the white ink and varnish ink tube, this all are for, because this is the same color. So we transit one big tuber to divide to two tuber and then connect with two ink damper. So if we load one ink damper, we need to block another one to prevent the ink and air go through to this damper. So then we load another, and also we must use another new injection. Load the ink. Just load about 3 to 5 milliliter, and also the same way we cannot release our injection immediately, but waiting for several seconds, to waiting for the injection automatically have no pressure and release, and then put it back to the print head.